Hello and welcome back to my channel, and welcome to a very special Transformers Studio Series video. In this video, as per tradition, I will be in fact ranking every figure from the Transformers Studio Series Wave 7 assortment. Those of you who are familiar with my channel will know that once I have done reviews of every single figure in a particular wave, I will do a roundup review which I will rank every single figure from that wave in that video. Before I start the ranking, I first of all want to say a massive thank you to everyone who has tuned in and watched all of my recent Transformers Studio Series reviews. They really have been probably one of the most popular reviews that I've ever had on my channel, so I can't stress enough how grateful I am for you constantly tuning in to my channel. Getting back now to the ranking video itself, I've got to say that this is one of the most difficult ranking videos I've ever had to make, as the majority of this wave was comprised of completely brand new sculpts, and those which were re-released definitely had some great brand new attributes. Without further ado, let's get into my least favourite Transformers Studio Series from this particular wave. Kicking things off, of course, it has to be the Transformers Studio Series Voyager Class KSI Boss. Now, there are so many reasons why this figure is ranked so lowly on the list, but primarily it is due to the simple fact that this is the exact same figure that we got as part of the Transformers The Last Night toy line almost 2 years ago now. The only redeeming attribute that this figure had upon its release was the fact that it actually had a completely brand new paint deco, which definitely appeared a lot more premium and a lot more visually appealing. There was no mold changes to this figure whatsoever, not even a brand new head sculpt, which is shown on the packaging. And talking of the packaging, they actually gave this figure the incorrect CGI model, and instead of showing us the KSI Boss CGI model, they actually showed us Nitro Zeus from Transformers The Last Night. This was an extremely lazy figure that I really don't think Hasbro put hardly any attention to detail in whatsoever. Swapping out the head would have been so simplistic, as the figure is actually compatible with Headmasters from the Titans Return toy line. This figure's laziness is also further seen when you compare this to Voyager Class Thundercracker, which didn't even appear in the movie and was given a completely brand new head sculpt. Despite this figure having no brand new pieces, I've got to say that the only redeeming factor of it is that it does have a brand new paint scheme, but other than that, this figure is definitely the worst from Wave 7 and my least favourite figure from this line. Now, taking the 5th spot on my list is the Transformers Studio Series Deluxe Class Constructicon Hightower. Now, I know that there will be many of you who are really surprised with how lowly ranked this particular figure is. However, for me it is for good reasoning. The only reason why this figure is ranked so low on the list is the fact that Hightower was a non-appearance movie character that was merely adapted from concept art that surfaced around the release of Revenge of the Fallen. Despite this, the actual figure itself is really good. I do actually enjoy it, and I do think that its very unique and very distinctive design is actually pretty decent. The only few other complaints that I have with it is the fact that the shoulder sections where the legs kind of connect, the paint apps chip extremely easily, and this is due to transformation. I have got some really nasty paint scuffs just by transforming it, 3 or 4 times, which is such a shame as they do look quite glaringly obvious. The articulation on the figure, considering that it is mainly composed of legs and a body, is actually fairly good. The legs do have about 7 points of articulation, which does allow you to pose the figure in a variety of different ways, and I really do quite like the way that they've given him a T-Rex motif. It definitely does look very abstract and go along with the designs of the Decepticons in the Bayverse movies. Another thing that I'm not too keen on is the fact that when it is actually combined to form the arm of Devastator with scrap metal, the ratchet joint is actually too loose and therefore cannot support its own weight. If you do check out my review, I do in fact show this, and it is going to be a massive drawback, especially if Devastator is able to be posed in a variety of different ways. So that was another drawback of this particular release. And another drawback that I had with it is the fact that I wish it was slightly bigger. I do wish that this figure was perhaps a Voyager class, as the actual alt form should be a lot bigger than the deluxe classes, whereas in this case it does scale with the rest of the figures. Taking the 4th spot on my list has to go to the Transformers Studio Series Leader Class Optimus Prime, based on his appearance from Dark of the Moon. Now, the reasoning behind why this figure is 4th on the list and not 5th is because this figure is actually very nostalgic to me, as it is the first design of Optimus that I grew up with, as Dark of the Moon was the first movie to really get me into the Transformers franchise. One of the major faults that I have with this figure is the fact that it is so lazy, in the sense that I really feel like this figure could have been fantastic if Hasbro and Takara had spent more money and more attention into it, seeing as it already basically re-releases a figure that was released towards the beginning of this year. The trailer itself is actually a great inclusion. It's fantastic to finally have an accurate, transforming annular ring trailer that can house the majority of Optimus Prime's weapons. However, the trailer is for the most part completely unpainted and has been cast in a really dark grey plastic, which I think could have looked a lot better even if they had just shaded the plastic a lighter colour. As for the accessories, they too are all unpainted. They're all this dreadful grey plastic, which wasn't present on the prototypes. All the prototypes were in fact painted. And as for the shield is really just pathetic. It's tiny and it doesn't even have a proper handle for Optimus to wield it with. Turning to the Jetwing itself, the Jetwing pack is actually quite cool. However, the fuel tanks are extremely hollow, and from the front is where you can really see the hollowness. Perhaps if they could have moved the hollow spots to the back, maybe that would have made the look slightly better, but even the cannons of the figure are completely hollow underneath, which is such a drawback for this figure, as it really does look very lazy and very, very cheap. The actual Optimus Prime figure itself is quite a nice addition. They have inserted pins into the fuel tanks in order to hold them on more securely during transformation, and I really do like the abdomen section. Orange fade on the front of the truck also looks nice, but just the trailer and the Jetwing, the hollowness and the lack of paint apps for the trailer and the Jetwing are really the only major drawbacks that I have for this figure, and are things that I really think Hasbro could have very easily rectified. Turning now to the third figure on my list, it has to go to the Age of Extinction Deluxe Class Autobot Drift. Finally, we have an accurate representation of how Drift appeared in Age of Extinction, with the accurate more black on blue colour scheme, as opposed to the lighter blue and the darker blue that the original Age of Extinction toys went with, and the fact that it actually transforms into his helicopter mode and is not just a reuse of a previously released Voyager figure. This is such a good Drift that I definitely think it is probably the best movie representation that we've ever got for Drift in the live action Transformers movie. I really am a massive fan of the colour scheme, as well as all of the paint apps that this figure actually has on him. It is probably one of the best painted deluxe figures released by Hasbro in some time. It comes with an absolute plethora of accessories. It comes with 2 katanas, 2 missile pods, and a shield that doubles as the back wing for the helicopter mode. The detailing is incredible. It really does look very movie accurate, and despite it only transforming into a helicopter, Hasbro have gone to the extra mile and actually included some Bugatti Veyron pieces. You can see these most noticeably in the chest area to really give you that illusion that this figure was in fact a triple changer in the movies. If I had one criticism with this figure, it would be the fact that it's not a triple changer. However, in the deluxe class scale, they are confined to how far the complexity can really be. So I can definitely understand why they've decided to give him a helicopter mode, and I really do hope that we do get an eventual Bugatti Veyron release, as this release of Drift really has proven that Hasbro have definitely perfected their skills since the release of the Age of Extinction movie. Taking the runner-up spot is of course going to have to go to the Transformers Studio Series Deluxe Class Dropkick based on his Javelin Ultimate form. This figure absolutely blew me away and is by far one of the best Deluxe Class figures to have ever entered into the Studio Series line. After having a very lackluster Deluxe Class helicopter figure, this brand new car version really had to make up for lost time and really had to give us the most definitive representation that we've ever gotten for Dropkick in toy form, and I definitely think that this release did. The overall proportions are so much more accurate to the movie. He actually comes with his accurate kind of vaporizing blaster that we see him use to pop the humans in the film. I think that the head sculpt is just unbelievable. It's a lot bigger than the previous version, and I really like the more subtle gunmetal grey as opposed to the shiny metallic paint that the original deluxe helicopter form had. This figure is a lot more bulky and definitely a lot more broad in design, which definitely goes along with the silhouette of Dropkick in the Bumblebee movie, and I think that he scales a lot better with some of the other figures and definitely looks great alongside the Volkswagen Bumblebee. The transformation is also extremely complex, which is fantastic to see making a return in the deluxe class, as usually deluxe classes are actually quite simplistic, but Dropkick has definitely got a very developed, very involved transformation, so that is definitely really nice to see. This figure gives me hope for the potential release of a jet version of Shatter, as her original car form was really bad, much like the helicopter version of this. So overall, this is probably the best deluxe to be released by the Studio Series this year, and that is why it has warranted second place on my top 6 Transformers Studio Series figures. So therefore, taking the first spot on my list has to go to the Transformers Studio Series Voyager Class Constructicon long haul. This was by far my most anticipated release from the entire series of Wave 7 Studio Series figures, and I must say it definitely lived up to my hype. This figure definitely looks as if though Hasbro have just plucked him out of the CGI render and has created him in plastic form. This is by far the most accurate representation that we've ever got for long haul in the Transformers movie toy line, and he really does look incredible. This figure has got fantastic proportions, excellent paint apps, and the detailing and sculpt work on this is too incredible. For a chunky figure as well, he does in fact have some great articulation. However, some of the articulation is slightly hindered due to the figure's larger proportions, but nevertheless, I think that he looks fantastic. He's one of my favourite Constructicons. Rampage is still my favourite. I'd say he's probably a close second, but he really is great. I think the transformation too is actually quite fun and enjoyable. Transforming him from robot to truck mode is really intuitive, and transforming him from truck mode to foot mode is actually pretty cool as well. I've got to say that the foot mode is actually probably the weakest mode of the figure. It definitely doesn't look nowhere near as stable and as strong as Rampage. However, it is a completely different figure, so I guess that the abstractness of Devastator will warrant long haul looking drastically different than Rampage. So yeah, long haul, one of my favourite figures from the Studio Series, and will definitely probably be up there in my top 10 Studio Series figures for 2019. So that is my ranking video for the Transformers Studio Series Wave 7 figures. This is potentially the last Studio Series wave for 2019. I do believe that the next wave featuring Leader Shockwave, Voyager, Movie 1 Megatron and Deluxe Class Soundwave will all be released as part of the first wave of 2020, and this is really a fantastic wave to conclude this year's Studio Series releases. Each of these figures were all pretty good, however I definitely had my favourites amongst them, but as an entire wave, this is one of the strongest Studio Series waves ever to come out by Hasbro and Takara, and some of these figures are the strongest figures that I've ever collected as a collector. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please let me know down in the comment section below, and be sure to let me know whether or not you agree with my list and what rankings you would give these specific figures. Thanks for watching.